Hi and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of December 7, 2020. In terms of the stock market direction, I think Monday is going to be a down day and it will be followed by up days on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday we'll see market going down. So in terms of the overall direction, sort of long term, I have expected that we will see a top or a reversal point rather around the 16th of November, most likely a top. And so far we have had since the 16th two more days when the Dow Jones had actually surpassed the close of the 16th, so on the November 24th, and then recently I believe it was on the 4th of December, so last Friday, is when we had Dow Jones basically reaching the all-time high. So even though the 16th wasn't the exact, I guess, number one highest close date for the Dow Jones, I do still think that the market will be reversing to down, and this will continue in the upcoming several weeks, if not several months. And that is because, one, we have the exact conjunction between Jupiter and Pluto that was more or less exact around the, like I said, 13th, 16th of November, now slowly separating. It's a very slow aspect, but it's transit, but it's going to be separating in the upcoming weeks. And also we will have beginning, I guess more or less on the 10th of December, but kind of intensifying through the end of December and into January of 2021, several kind of more stressful aspects, transits rather, and in the upcoming weeks, I would say, let's see, the December 18 through the 24 in particular may see some events that might be market moving kind of events, or some news that might affect market, and those may be along the lines of some kind of more practical or realistic considerations, or long-term kind of thinking, wealth preservation, playing things safe, and there may also be some governmental changes at that time, or some decisions about some legal considerations. So basically, that time definitely also looks to me like more of a time where people would be, or investors would be, more focused on preserving basically what they have rather than just trying to pour more money into the market. So I think this exuberance will be slowly kind of waning with the Jupiter and Pluto separating, and at the same time kind of more difficult transits will I think facilitate kind of a more of a practical, realistic look, and this rally will at the very minimum slow down, and I think it will actually turn down, and it will be some time around, let's say, maybe mid to late January of 2021 is when we may expect another time of some sort of market volatility where perhaps another reversal may occur. So going back to more specifically kind of what might happen during each day of this week, on Monday, the 7th of December, we may see some news about minor disagreements during some negotiations, or perhaps some concerns, again, regarding deals, negotiations, or projects involving healthcare, governmental services, such as postal service, teachers, police, anything that's kind of like based on contracting with the government. So there may be some minor concerns about how well those services, I guess, are functioning. Let's see, for the US, on Monday, there may be increased news about areas related to like IT, high tech, aerospace, telecoms, electric cars, social media networks, and things of that nature. And the news might have to do with either new deals, contract, sales, and perhaps there may be some condition that will be highlighted during those negotiations, that something needs to be met, some sort of criterion or some issue of contention that needs to be resolved before like a sale or contract may be completed. And that could be like some sort of a legal stumbling block. So maybe a law needs to be passed, or some concerns about legality of something, or maybe some international partners may be involved, or perhaps transportation needs to occur across borders, and that needs to be resolved before a contract or a deal may be reached. For China, Monday also looks like an important day where there may be some positive news about either real estate or banks, their assets, long-distance transportation, again, especially across borders, and or there may be increased news about some sort of foreign or international projects, foreign investments, or some basically deals that involve import-export. And the news for China on Monday may be positive, so maybe the earnings have increased, or if there's like a negotiation, perhaps it will be proceeding smoother than usual. For Tuesday, as I said, the market may go up, and in the US, there might be increased focus in the news on leadership. This could be individuals, like some prominent individuals, as well as companies that are leaders in their industries, and especially if it's related to like healthcare or food production, or perhaps homeland security, or even children, or motherhood, some protection of basically certain groups that are, I guess, more needy or need protection. There may also be increased news about like oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, infectious disease, etc. Then on Wednesday, again, market may go up, a slight chance, not necessarily a huge, strong up influence, but overall things look, I guess, slightly better to me. And then let's see, 9th through the 10th of December globally could see some news about improved opportunities for businesses and projects related to either sports, so maybe something like especially related to like fighting or racing, like car racing or running, basically something that involves moving really fast, maybe somewhat slightly dangerous. But also any projects or negotiations related to like military, weapons, any risky activities. It could be even casinos, anything that involves this kind of a high-speed chase and risk-taking, or even like some weapons, or it could be some instruments that are, again, sharp and maybe involved, like harpoons or something like that, I don't know, but something that is some sort of metal and is used for, I guess, retrieving something with, again, sharp ends. And I can't really specifically give you an example, but basically those are the kind of negotiations about those type of areas that may be more prominent on the 9th and 10th of December. And at the same time, so negotiations on those areas might be particularly favorable. So maybe if there's like a contract on some weapons or such equipment, or related to sports, it may go through faster than expected, or just kind of with fewer obstacles. At the same time, during those 2 days, that weather might be either hotter than usual. So if, say, there, obviously in the areas where right now we would expect warm weather. So perhaps if there's a sporting event that specifically requires like warm weather, that might be a consideration. Maybe it will be favorable because, again, things are warmer than usual. So maybe, the event can take place and it will be more comfortable for athletes. Or perhaps, unfortunately, it also may lead to, say, fires, because if things get obviously too hot, there may also be increased probability of just things igniting. And so, especially on the 10th, at the same time, if, say, there's already an ongoing conflict or disagreement, there's again also a propensity at those times for things to kind of fly off the handle, and things escalating, flaring up because of some circumstances. So something or someone is in the wrong place in the wrong time, and maybe something that starts fairly like a benign situation or mild disagreement can escalate, especially, like I said, on the 10th. And also at the same time, again, a positive manifestation could be in, say, sports, where a prominent athlete achieves a record of some sort because, again, they're able to push themselves and go faster, or a car of some sort goes faster than it normally would have. For China, December 9 and 10 may see increased positive news about some leadership or profits, like increased profits, or financial institutions in general. Again, they may announce increased profits, or maybe like a likable new leader is appointed, or perhaps some new ambitious financial goals are announced. Thursday, as I mentioned, I think the market may go down. And then starting Thursday, the 10th, through about the end of the month, basically through December 30th, but especially 18th through the 24th of December, could be like an important time where the optimism that perhaps had been driving markets up until recently will be more significantly or more noticeably waning, and kind of substituted with the focus on more practical considerations, long-term planning, and preserving basically assets, preserving wealth. And there may also be increased news about either some legal decisions or foreign relations, and some issues that involve governments or large corporations that again are of legal nature or have to do with their kind of deals or negotiations with international partners. And there may be some limitations or restrictions imposed that have to do either with, say, immigration or movements, or movement of goods or people across the border. There may be even some cuts or restructuring. And those kind of restrictions or some legal obstacles may actually, if there's restriction imposed at that time, it may actually trigger a wave of violent protests and attacks. And in particular, December 23rd looks like a tense day to me. There may also be some delays or some obstacles if there are like legal disputes or international negotiations, again, of legal nature among like international contract partners, or if there's some international contract to be reached, or some legal issue needs to be resolved, things may proceed slower than expected, and there could be, like I said, delays and obstacles. And significantly at the same time, the transits that are globally, like I said, somewhat stressful and will potentially bring the market down, especially 18th through the 24th of December, also happen to form stressful aspects to the charts of China and US President Trump. So this could indicate that those entities may experience things like tension, pressure, be subject to some arguments, or feel frustrated over some limitations. Whether, that's related, that, Trump administration imposes some restrictions on China and there's frustration, or they just happen to be sort of in parallel, that I'm not sure of. It's just that it happens to be at the same time. And also, additionally for China, at this time, which is 10th through the 30th of December, but especially 18th through the 24th, we may hear about some new beginnings of some new major projects that are related to like IT, airspace, high-tech, electronics, telecoms, AI, anything to do with like basically computers, space exploration, sort of cutting-edge new projects. And this will be starting basically in December, but will continue through early January. And those will be fairly significant long-term projects on a really large scale with a lot of like science involved, and maybe like building something that's like monumental. And these projects, if they begin at this time, especially like I said, from the 25th of December through, let's say, 2nd of January, they may be around for quite some time. Then let's see, Friday, market may go down again. And on Friday, there may be increased surprising news or some developments that are surprising either pre-open or in the very early morning, that are related to earnings, banks, financial institutions, and other related things like taxes, currencies, rates, maybe insurance. And there may also be important announcements, again, very early in the morning, about some sort of a leader. Again, it could be an entity or an individual. If it's an individual, it could be something like a diplomat, judge, professor, etc. Somebody who's like well-educated. Also, it could be announcements regarding either some legal case or immigration or an international deal or partnership. And the outcome of if there's like a resolution or a particular leader mentioned at that time, again, could be a company or an individual, they may be seen as unpopular, questionable in terms of like legality of the situation, or just simply unwise, like the move will be judged as like this person's a professor but that they're doing something that is not wise, or this person is a lawyer but they're doing something that's illegal. So that's for Friday. In terms of the overall kind of a background influence, through the end of the year we're still going to experience this increased probability of major, basically either earthquakes or shakeups at the leadership or geopolitical changes, etc. And this week, I guess the worst days for that, or the strongest probability of such, so let's say strong disasters or earthquakes, etc., are December 10th and 11th. Also, for US, the entire sort of period from September to December seems like a period where there might be increased news or increased focus on like banks, financial institutions, earnings, financial policies, rates, taxes, etc. And there may be increased concerns at this time of either bankruptcies or sufficient earnings or payments, whether they're legal or illegal, hidden money, corruption, debt, or price of something, like say for like military support. Those issues will all be kind of important, I guess, and there might be more focus on such issues in the US through the end of December. Let's see, for China through, let's say, December 23rd, there may be increased focus on things like pollution, water, recycling, oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, infectious diseases, etc. And there may be some new undertakings to address some of these areas, so maybe like investing in some storage to store oil, for example, or expanding some capabilities in the Navy, or perhaps dealing with consequences from some devastating floods and kind of making sure that things can be prevented or cleaned up more efficiently, or coming up with some project that addresses water pollution, etc. And again, these could be the projects that are started at this time that perhaps, again, expansion of Navy or something to do with like storage of oil. These could be, again, projects that may be relevant or not relevant, but will have important consequences for some years to come, or even decades. So this will be a fairly significant kind of a time of some changes that are implemented at this time will have long-lasting consequences. In terms of specifically coronavirus outbreak, almost the entire year, but especially, as I mentioned before, in November, there was an important transit to China's chart that indicates kind of focus on like biomedical like research, pharmaceuticals, infectious diseases, etc. And I would say that had peaked as far as the intensity of the transit in November. And so I believe December will see gradual kind of decrease of the focus on those areas. We have heard, obviously vaccines are coming out here and there, including from China. So I think that this is the most intense period. This wave, I think, will be going down throughout this month. In terms of oil, through February 2021, I would expect increased focus on areas related to like oil, Navy, gas, again, pharmaceuticals, but that's globally infectious diseases. Also any other Neptunian areas, which could be, say, movies, like movie theaters are often, standing empty these days because of the COVID, etc. But basically or music, how something is audiovisual equipment, and beverages and, pharmaceuticals, especially anything to do with liquids or treating addictions, etc. So there will be increased focus on these areas, generally speaking, including oil and gas per se, through February 2021, and especially January 18 through 29 means increased kind of news, which could be somewhat stressful. So maybe could be even a pollution situation. Maybe there's some accident and there's water pollution, with oil, or there might be some tensions among countries that are involved in like oil production or transportation, and so it might affect the price of oil at the same time. Then the next period where there may be increased focus on, again, these same topics, and particularly oil and gas, would be April of 2021, especially 8th through 11th, and that again may coincide with some turmoil in the markets and market going down. And after that, next year, September 1st through 3rd, may see it again another time period where there may be again increased news and focus on either oil, gas, but also maybe fighting or some negotiations, perhaps some disagreements among, maybe OPEC countries or something like that. And there may be again tensions, disagreements, arguments, and there may be a large market drop around the same time, which is September 3rd, especially of 2021. So kind of taking a really quick glance ahead in the next year, just to kind of look into January, just because January and into early February looks like a very important month, if not the most important month of the year, definitely a month of a lot of like changes, maybe volatility in the stock market, surprises, and weather that can be perhaps windy, excessively windy, that is, I should say. So maybe some storms from, ice storms in the northern hemisphere to firestorms somewhere in Australia, but basically excessive amount of wind, and also some concerns about some legal or international decisions or decisions related to immigration or transportation across borders. But basically a lot of changes coming up, I would say, from about 7th of January 2021 through 7th of February 2021. And there could be accidents, including anything that has to do with like flying through the air. So anything to do with like drones or airplanes, obviously, or just again windy weather. And it is interesting again that the 20th happens to be, I believe, US presidential inauguration date, that it will have particularly strong stressful transits. That again, it could be from just bad weather with a lot of wind to some surprising accidents, fires, power outages, etc. And things will start kind of getting slightly more tense towards the end of December, but January definitely looks like quite a intense month of ups and downs. And particular areas that I would say, if you don't have to be there, I would not be there in January. It would be areas or locations that have to do with, again, water or snow or rain. Obviously it's all water, but something like maybe a water park or a skating rink, or maybe hospitals, prisons, aquariums, like a large aquarium where you would be visiting, I guess, monasteries, unless of course you're a monk, I guess you wouldn't have a choice, places of worship, movie theaters, concert halls. And it doesn't mean that the accidents will happen there, but there's a higher increased probability that they might, or just maybe that those areas may be somehow experiencing difficulties. So obviously maybe not the best time for movie theaters because there are no moviegoers, for example. But there may be some concerns, again, either related to some accidents related to like water, bad weather, spills, accidents, or blizzards, storms. But there could also be other kind of accidents, such as like a mine collapse, and that have to do with things that, again, are filled with either gas or water, like brine. So that's, again, starting approximately January 4th through February 7th. And I would say particular dates that look kind of worse for me than others are January 10, 16, 20, 24, 27 through 31, and then February 6. Let's see. And then generally speaking, from December of this year throughout, say, February of 2021, there may also be increased focus on or news about like either bankruptcies or some companies kind of going through some restructuring and rather voluntary cuts to basically preserve their wealth. Then next year, for US, but also globally, months of April, August, and December may see increased focus on the price of gold and US dollar, and there may be some reversals in the gold prices at that time. And then moving, kind of looking even slightly further ahead, just because I think it's important to mention that in 22 and 23, that is those years, we will have some significant transits to US chart where we'll have Neptune getting into US fourth house, which have to do with, again, banks, real estate, but also food production, agriculture. Like there could be maybe excessive flooding, which could be literally just too much water and it affects production, or it could be pollution of the land, or it could be some concerns, some confusion related to, again, real estate, or real estate rises underwater, either literally or figuratively speaking, or a lot of confusion as to, okay, where is the border, what's protected, what's not, what is safe, what's not. So that obviously may lead to some instability in the markets at the same time, and especially again related to finance, banks, real estate, and also like agriculture, food production. At the same time, we will have a first, I guess, in the US history, Pluto return, which is a significant transit that obviously happens very infrequently, and this would coincide with just really major changes in sort of shifts in power, basically who's at the power, who has the power, which organizations are basically are at the top. And in the US, Pluto happens to reside in the second house of finance and banks again. So maybe some changes in what is valuable, what is considered to be valuable. So things that maybe have been valuable before, or organizations or companies that were seen as being valuable, they actually may lose their value, or just the value just in terms of, I guess, subjective perception of it may change. Similarly, there may be changes into sort of who's in power in terms of finance, meaning who has more money or who earns more, and or how much sort of power do financial organization have. All of those things may be up sort of for reevaluation. And so the years of 22-23 definitely for the US look like fairly significant times of major changes. And I guess last mention is that in 2025 we will have Saturn conjunct Neptune, and that in the past had coincided with major pandemics such as the Spanish flu of 1918, and we may start kind of seeing changes, not changes, but some indications of perhaps either another pandemic of some sort, or at the very minimum focus on kind of prevention of another sort of wave of infectious diseases, or dealing with some sort of biomedical issue as early as the end of 2024 and through early 2026. And at the same time, we'll also actually have Neptune changing signs. At 2025, it will enter Aries, which is going to be a fire sign, and also sign that is associated typically with things like sports. So we can hear more about, say, doping, like abusing drugs by athletes, or perhaps increased focus on athletic competitions that involve water. So maybe like swimming, obviously, or rowing, etc. At the same time, it's also a drying kind of a sign. Too much fire perhaps may lead to some bodies of water experiencing maybe some problems, be it with pollution or just shortages of water may become kind of an issue. At the same time, again, Aries is also ruled by Mars, and Mars, of course, is the god of war. So we may hear more news about like chemical warfare, or bioweapons, or submarines, or anything that has to do with kind of being invisible, because Neptune water, it basically spreads everywhere, but you can't really put your finger on it. So anything that has to do with like even music and movies, or not psychotherapy, but some sort of invisible ways of spreading things where they can be used as weapons, or vice versa. What we may, positive manifestation could be if, say, there is warfare at the time, what might happen and happened in the past when Neptune was in Aries, which again will be coming through about 2025, is when at the time rather new ways of healing were invented, where healing was making, say, surgeries had to be performed on like a battlefield. So certain innovations were implemented that allowed certain treatments to be applied faster, because again, Aries also wants things to kind of be new and going faster, and there may be some new ways of treating, say, eyesight or something, or to use or develop drugs much faster, or something that acts much faster, maybe movies that can be also produced a lot faster. So anything to do with Neptune, at that time we may hear about some innovations and innovative ways of, say, again, like I said, performing surgeries or developing some pharmaceuticals or creating movies or music that will be a lot faster than before, or something that's going to be a new and innovative way of basically using chemicals, pharmaceuticals, water, beverages, or music and movies in, especially as related to sports or any activities that need to be performed fast, or unfortunately also in the warfare as well. So that's what's, I guess, coming up ahead, both for this week and in the upcoming months to years. Hopefully you find this interesting, and will come back and check me out next week. And until then, have a great week, everyone. Bye.